The high-pitched screech of tires tore through the air as I sprinted across the bustling city street. My heart pounded as I witnessed the sleek, crimson motorcycle lose control and careen into a lamppost, the rider flung off like a rag doll. Without a second thought, I bolted towards the scene, weaving through the frozen crowd. She lay crumpled on the pavement, her glossy helmet scratched but intact. A faint groan escaped her lips as I knelt beside her. "Hey, stay with me. Can you hear me?" I shouted, gently removing her helmet to check for injuries. Her eyes fluttered open, dazed and glassy. "What happened?" "You had an accident," I said, my voice trembling with urgency. "Don't move too much. Help is on the way." But the sirens were too far off, and time felt impossibly slow. I cradled her head, willing her to hold on. The sight of her face, a mixture of beauty and fragility, stirred something deep within me. She wasn't just anyone. She felt like someone I was meant to save. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and urgency. I lingered in the waiting room, my clothes smeared with dirt and blood from the accident. It didn't matter. I couldn't leave until I knew she was okay. Finally, a nurse approached. "She's stable. Are you her family?" I hesitated but nodded. "Yeah, I'm a close friend." The nurse led me to her room. The woman lay on the hospital bed, her pale face bandaged but serene. As I stepped closer, her eyes opened, locking onto mine. "You," she whispered, her voice hoarse but laced with recognition. "You saved me." I smiled, unsure of what to say. "I'm glad you're awake. What's your name?" she asked, her gaze softening. "Ryan," I said. "And you?" "Isabella," she replied. "I owe you my life, Ryan." Isabella insisted I stay. Over the next few days, we talked endlessly. She shared glimpses of her life, her love for bikes, her recent success as an entrepreneur, and her strained relationship with her overbearing father, a billionaire who controlled every aspect of her life. Her vulnerability surprised me. For someone with so much wealth and privilege, she carried the weight of loneliness. "Why were you riding alone?" I asked one evening. Her eyes clouded. "Freedom," she murmured. "I wanted to escape, even just for a moment." Her words struck a chord. I knew the feeling of being trapped, though my cage was poverty and unfulfilled dreams. On the day of her discharge, Isabella did something that left me stunned. "Ryan, I don't know how to thank you, but I want to help you." "You don't owe me anything," I said quickly, feeling out of place. Her smile was faint but determined. "I do. Let me help you. Tell me, what's holding you back in life?" Her sincerity cracked something open in me. I confessed my struggles, working dead-end jobs, trying to support my sick mother, and barely making ends meet. I didn't expect her to care, but she listened intently, her eyes glistening with empathy. True to her word, Isabella began to change my life in ways I couldn't have imagined. She offered me a job at her company, insisting I had the potential to grow. "You don't have to accept," she said, "but I believe in you." Skeptical but desperate, I agreed. What started as a simple position quickly turned into a mentorship. Isabella taught me everything she knew about business, pushing me to dream bigger. Our bond deepened, not just as boss and employee, but as friends. And as the months passed, something more began to blossom. A connection neither of us could ignore. Just as my life seemed to be turning around, shadows from my past resurfaced. Debt collectors began harassing me, threatening to expose my struggles to Isabella. They saw my rising status as an opportunity to exploit. Terrified, I tried to handle it alone, but Isabella noticed my unease. "What's wrong, Ryan?" she asked one night, her voice laced with concern. I can't tell you," I stammered, ashamed of my secrets. Her expression hardened. "You don't have to hide from me. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Her unwavering support gave me the courage to confess. And instead of judgment, she offered solutions, using her influence to negotiate my debts and free me from their grip. As the danger subsided, our relationship took a new turn. Isabella confessed her feelings for me one moonlit evening. "Ryan, I've never met anyone like you. You've shown me a world beyond wealth, a world of resilience and heart. I think I'm falling for you." Her words left me breathless. "Isabella, I feel the same. But are you sure? I'm not from your world." She smiled, her eyes shining with determination. "You're exactly what my world needs." The warmth of our confession didn't last long. Isabella's father, Alexander Marino, was a man used to controlling everything in his daughter's life. When he found out about me, his fury was like a thunderstorm. "You think you can waltz into my family's life and take advantage of my daughter's kindness?" He spat, his sharp gaze cutting through me as we faced each other in his sprawling mansion. Isabella stood beside me, her hand gripping mine tightly. "I'm not taking advantage of anyone," I replied, my voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside. "I care about her." "Care?" Alexander scoffed. "What can a man like you offer her? She's destined for greatness, not to be dragged down by some nobody." "Stop it, Dad," Isabella interjected, her voice trembling with emotion. "Ryan has done more for me than anyone ever has. He saved my life. Isn't that worth anything to you?" Alexander's cold laugh echoed in the room. "Saved your life? That doesn't mean he belongs in it." The conversation ended in a stalemate, but the tension was far from over. Alexander wasn't one to back down easily. Over the next few weeks, he threw obstacle after obstacle in our path. He sabotaged my position at Isabella's company, spreading rumors about my incompetence and questioning my intentions. Even my colleagues began to distance themselves, unsure of who to believe. "Ryan, we can fight this together," Isabella said one night as we sat in her apartment, her voice a mixture of determination and frustration. "My father doesn't control my life. I don't want to be the reason you lose everything," I admitted, my heart heavy. "He's your family. You're my family now," she replied, her eyes filled with unwavering resolve. "We'll prove him wrong." Isabella's words lit a fire in me. I realized that to truly earn my place in her life, I needed to prove not just my love for her but my worth as an individual. I poured every ounce of energy into self-improvement, taking online business courses, networking with industry leaders, and even starting a small side hustle to help struggling startups. Isabella supported me every step of the way, her belief in me never wavering. "You're incredible," she would say, her eyes glowing with pride. "You're going to change the world." "Ryan." One evening, Isabella invited me to a high-profile charity gala hosted by her father. It was a chance to show him that I wasn't just some nobody. Dressed in a tailored suit Isabella had helped me pick out, I walked into the grand ballroom, determined to make an impression. The event was a whirlwind of introductions and conversations. To my surprise, some of the city's most influential figures were intrigued by my ideas. By the end of the night, I had secured several promising connections. Alexander watched from the sidelines, his expression unreadable. As I approached him, he spoke coldly. "You may have won a few admirers tonight, but you'll never be good enough for my daughter." I met his gaze, refusing to back down. "That's not your decision to make. It's hers." The weeks that followed were a roller coaster. My budding success drew both admiration and resentment, while Alexander's attempts to undermine me grew more ruthless. But through it all, Isabella remained my anchor. "I don't care what my father says," she told me one night as we stood on the balcony of her penthouse, the city lights twinkling below. "You're the only person who's ever made me feel truly free." Her words filled me with a sense of purpose. Together, we were unstoppable. Just as we thought we were gaining ground, a devastating betrayal came to light. One of my closest allies at work, someone I thought I could trust, had been feeding Alexander information about my plans. When I confronted them, their excuse was simple. "It's just business, Ryan. You can't compete with the Marinos." The betrayal stung, but it also steeled my resolve. I realized that if I wanted to succeed, I couldn't rely on anyone but myself and Isabella. With Isabella's encouragement, I threw myself into my work. My startup began to gain traction, attracting investors and media attention. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was in control of my destiny. But Alexander wasn't finished. He orchestrated a scandal, attempting to discredit me in the public eye. The pressure was immense, but Isabella and I faced it head-on, refusing to let him win. The breaking point came when Alexander confronted Isabella directly, demanding she choose between him and me. Her response was clear and unwavering. "I love you, Dad, but I won't let you control my life. Ryan is my choice, and if you can't accept that, you'll lose both of us." Her words shook him to his core. For the first time, Alexander seemed to realize that his actions were driving his daughter away. Alexander's reaction to Isabella's declaration wasn't immediate. For days, he retreated into his shell, refusing to speak to her. It was as if her words had ignited a war inside him, his desire to control her life clashing with the love he couldn't deny for his only daughter. Meanwhile, Isabella and I faced the fallout together. Despite the tension with her father, her support never wavered. "Ryan, no matter what happens, we'll face it together," she said one evening, her hand in mine. "I don't need his approval to live my life." Her strength gave me courage, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the battle with Alexander was far from over. The next move came in the form of a letter. Hand-delivered by one of Alexander's assistants, it was cold and formal, offering me an astronomical sum of money to leave Isabella's life forever. When I showed her the letter, her face turned pale with anger. "I can't believe he would stoop this low," she said, her voice trembling. "This isn't love. It's control." I hesitated before answering. "Maybe this is his way of trying to protect you. He doesn't see me as good enough for you." She grabbed my hand, her grip firm. "You're worth more than any amount of money, Ryan. We'll prove him wrong." Together, determined to put an end to Alexander's interference, Isabella decided to take matters into her own hands. At a high-profile event hosted by her family's company, she made a bold declaration. Stepping onto the stage, microphone in hand, she addressed the crowd and her father. "I've spent my life trying to meet impossible expectations, but today, I'm choosing to live for myself. Ryan is the man I love, and no amount of power or money will change that." Gasps rippled through the room, followed by a heavy silence. Alexander's expression was unreadable, but I could see the conflict in his eyes. The fallout from Isabella's declaration was immediate and intense. Media outlets jumped on the story, painting me as a gold digger and questioning Isabella's judgment. Paparazzi hounded us at every turn, their cameras flashing like weapons. Despite the chaos, Isabella stood by me. "Let them talk," she said defiantly. "The truth will come out eventually." Her faith in me was a beacon of hope, but the pressure was immense. I knew I had to step up and prove myself, not just to her but to the world. In the midst of the media storm, my startup hit a major milestone. A breakthrough partnership with a leading tech company catapulted us into the spotlight, but this time, for the right reasons. Investors flocked to us, and suddenly, I was no longer the struggling young man everyone doubted. At a press conference, I addressed the rumors head-on. I didn't come from wealth or privilege, but that doesn't define my worth. What defines me is my determination, my hard work, and the love and support of those who believe in me. Isabella watched from the front row, her eyes shining with pride. For weeks, Alexander remained silent. Then, one evening, he showed up unannounced at Isabella's apartment. His presence was a shock, but his demeanor was even more surprising. He looked tired, defeated. "I came to apologize," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I've been so focused on controlling your life that I forgot what really matters. Your happiness." His words were a turning point. For the first time, it felt like there was a chance for reconciliation. Rebuilding trust with Alexander wasn't easy. He offered me a tentative truce, but it was clear he still had reservations. "I'll be watching you, Ryan," he warned. "Don't let me down." I took his words as a challenge, determined to prove myself, not just to him but to everyone who doubted me. After months of overcoming obstacles, Isabella and I decided to take the next step. Our wedding was a small, intimate affair, surrounded by close friends and family. Even Alexander attended, offering a heartfelt toast. "To Ryan," he said, raising his glass. You've shown me that love isn't about status or wealth. It's about strength and loyalty. Welcome to the family." His words brought tears to my eyes. It was a moment I would never forget. Married life brought new challenges and joys. Isabella and I worked together to grow both her company and mine, creating a partnership that was as strong professionally as it was personally. We also began giving back, using our success to help others in need. It was our way of honoring the struggles we had faced and the people who had supported us along the way. Years later, as we stood on the balcony of our dream home, looking out at the life we had built together, I realized how far we had come. From the moment I pulled Isabella from that wreckage, our lives had been intertwined in ways I could never have imagined. "I love you, Ryan," she said, her voice soft and full of emotion. "I love you too," I replied, pulling her close. Forever, life wasn't without its challenges, even after our marriage. The rapid growth of our businesses brought immense pressure. Long hours, endless meetings, and media scrutiny tested the strength of our relationship. There were nights when exhaustion threatened to pull us apart, but Isabella and I always found a way back to each other. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, I found Isabella sitting alone on the balcony, staring at the city lights. Her shoulders were slumped, and her face was etched with weariness. "Hey," I said softly, sitting beside her. "You okay?" She sighed, leaning her head on my shoulder. "Sometimes I wonder if we're losing ourselves in all this success." Her words hit me hard. I realized that while we had achieved so much, we couldn't let our dreams overshadow what mattered most: us. Determined to reconnect, I planned a surprise getaway. I whisked Isabella away to a secluded cabin in the mountains, far from the noise and chaos of the city. For the first time in months, we laughed freely, cooked meals together, and simply enjoyed each other's company without distractions. One evening, as we sat by the fireplace, Isabella took my hand. "Thank you for this," she whispered. "I needed to remember why we started all this in the first place." "And what's that?" I asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She smiled, her eyes glistening with love. "Because we believed in each other." A few months later, our lives took an unexpected turn. Isabella called me one afternoon, her voice trembling with excitement. "Ryan, I have news. I'm pregnant." The words hit me like a tidal wave of emotion. Joy, fear, and overwhelming love all at once. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice cracking. She laughed, her happiness contagious. "Yes, we're going to be parents." The news brought a new sense of purpose to our lives. We began preparing for the arrival of our child, balancing work and family with renewed determination. When our daughter, Sophia, was born, it felt like the culmination of everything we had fought for. Holding her tiny hand in mine, I was filled with a sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought us here. Alexander, now a doting grandfather, surprised us all with his transformation. He had become a softer, more reflective man, cherishing every moment he spent with Sophia. One evening, as we sat together in the nursery, he looked at me and said, "You've taught me what it means to truly love, Ryan. Thank you for never giving up." Years passed, and our lives continued to evolve. Isabella and I expanded our businesses, created charitable foundations, and traveled the world. But through it all, our family remained the heart of everything we did. One evening, as we celebrated our anniversary, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. From a chance accident to a love that defied all odds, our story was proof that even the most unlikely beginnings could lead to extraordinary endings. "I wouldn't change a thing," Isabella said, her hand in mine. "Me neither," I replied, pulling her close. This is everything." And as we watched the sunset together, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together, just as we always had.